YouTube, what's going on? Exhibit here. I got a brand new video for you guys today. In today's video, we're doing our Indianapolis track review, predictions, and fantasy all in one video. I kind of feel this will be a little bit better of a video than just doing the fantasy per se or like a track review and trying to just mix it all in one. I think it will be a better format for going forward. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. But with that being said, we're going to start it off with our predictions, and then we're going to go to the track review, and then we're going to finish off with our fantasy picks. So with my predictions for the 250 class, we're going to go with Jet Lawrence first, Cameron McAdoo second, Pierce Brown third, RJ Hampshire fourth, and Jordan Smith fifth. That is very similar to what I picked last week. I actually flipped Pierce and RJ from last week, but I don't think you can go wrong with picking Jet first or Cameron McAdoo second. I think those guys are just the two best riders right now. I believe Pierce Brown is riding really good the last couple of weeks, so I kind of like him in that third position, because RJ keeps making those tiny mistakes. So I kind of feel Pierce has just been riding a little bit better than RJ. So that's why I have RJ in fourth. And then Jordan Smith is kind of my wild pick right there for the fifth place. If he can stay consistent, I think he'll actually do a pretty good job getting into that fifth place. He was battling with RJ last week, so I kind of like that fifth place for Jordan. But for the 450s, we're going to go with Eli Tomac first, Malcolm Stewart second, Chase Sexton third, Jason Anderson fourth, and Justin Barcia fifth. I don't know why I keep going against Eli. I mean, he's won every single race that I pick against him. So with this week, hopefully he wins because I'm picking him first. And then we got Malcolm Stewart second. He's just way more healthier than all the rest of the guys right now, and he's riding really solid. So I kind of like Malcolm second. If he gets a good start and Eli doesn't, possibly Malcolm gets a win. Possibly. But then I like Chase Sexton third. Chase has been riding really good, and he just had an unfortunate circumstance with Webb last week. So I think he comes back with that fire under him and tries to get that podium spot. Maybe he even gets like a second over Malcolm, but I kind of like Chase for that podium spot in that third place. And then Anderson fourth, coming off a concussion. We don't know how that's going to play a factor coming into the race day. It might not play a factor at all, and he just dominates. But that's why I kind of have him in the fourth spot. And then Barcia with that finger injury, I have him in fifth over Webb just because of the shoulder for Webb and that fractured hand. So I kind of like Barcia being more healthier than Webb to get that fifth place overall. So those are my predictions. They're probably going to be wrong, but you never know. They could come out to be perfectly right. You never know. Now we're going to jump over to the track review and kind of give you guys my thoughts of how the track's going to play out. All right, so we're jumping over to the track review. I'm going to throw up a picture of what the track looks like from Supercross Live on Twitter. They posted a photo earlier. The track looks really good with nobody riding on it, so I'm excited about that. We do have a long start here, and this is going to play a little bit of a factor if you can get a good jump or not. But I don't think it's going to play too much of a factor, just because a lot of riders, even if they don't get a good start, they're going to jump into that inside and just like try to cut off everybody else. So I kind of see that happening. But going on the track, we rode it a little bit the other night, and my homie Zug mentioned that it was pretty basic with my homie B, and I was like, after like riding it for a bit, it kind of was. So hopefully it's not like too basic when we actually watch the race, because that would suck. We want some good racing, but sometimes the basic tracks actually lead to good racing because everybody's bunched up. You know what I mean? So it should be a good race, I think. I think the sand section and leading into a whoops is going to play a lot of a big factor for this weekend. Just because going into a sand section 1 is always difficult. But if this sand section is actually pretty rough throughout the night, it could lead into a bad drive into the whoops, per se. If you get a bad drive into these whoops, it's a long section too. A lot of guys could be fucking that up and just like losing positions. We saw Eli do it last week in Detroit, where he was skimming on the right side and he made like 4 passes in the whoops, right? So it could play a big factor. Eli is pretty good in the whoops this year, as well as Stewart. It's always been good in the whoops. So I kind of see that being a huge factor in this race. I think the hardest section is actually just right here after the whoops. The hardest section is definitely right after the whoops. I don't know how big of a spacing this is going to be right here. But if people are just double and then jumping on top of this table, that's going to be the main line, I think, per se. But if you're, say, a 450 rider and this isn't that far spaced out, I can definitely see a triple coming out of this and then maybe jumping over the table right here, maybe quadding over this, leading it to the straightaway. That just kind of depends on how that corner is, as well as how far the second or that third landing in spot is. Because on bikes, I can't get it. I've tried multiple times. It just doesn't work out. But I think in real life, I think that's an option to go triple quad and then straight away into the corner, right? But I think the main line will be a double and then triple onto the table. Not like that, but you guys know what I'm talking about. And then straight away into the corner. I kind of see maybe, it depends on how well riders are going to be jumping off this right here. If people are on the inside right here, I can see a bunch of passing happening, just like cutting off this because there's nothing right after it besides like a little roller into the main line. So I kind of see that happening. And then obviously with 90s, you always have to be ready to see a pass right here after the rhythm section, just diving into this inside, right? You always got to be wary of that. So that's going to play a factor, as well as this finish line. I can see people diving into the inside. If someone took the outside, but I think most of the time people are going to take that inside line right there, just because of how it flows from the other section. If you're taking the outside line, you're definitely going to get past here. I just don't see anybody going out wide unless it's like a privateer guy. But they're going to take that inside. And then you kind of have an option here. You can try to jump over and then triple into the corner. I don't know if that line's going to be the main line or if someone's going to actually quad it. I can see the 450 guys quadding this if they get enough power. Maybe the 250 guys if they can get it. But it just kind of depends on how big this on-off is. In the game, you can definitely quad it. So I'm assuming you're going to be able to quad it in real life. But then again, I don't know. But that's going to play a factor. Kind of like maybe for a hot lap. And I can see it jumping over the table and then doing a triple out into the corner as like the main line. But it just kind of depends. But yeah, track is pretty simple. I mean, we've already gone through everything. So I'm excited for it because Indianapolis has always been a good track. So I'm excited for the racing aspect, and I'm happy that everybody's back. So yeah. So now we're going to jump into our fantasy picks. This was filmed Thursday night on stream. This is for Pulp MX. Let me know what you guys think about them. Let me know what you guys are picking for fantasy. My picks are kind of risky this week, and hopefully they work out because I don't know if I'll be able to change them. So hopefully that works out, and let me know what you guys think. So fantasy wise, this is my fantasy team going into Saturday. For the 250 class, we have Cameron McAdoo. I picked Jet Lawrence last week, so I can't pick Jet again. So I'm going with Cameron McAdoo as my all-star pick. I think he's the second best rider in this class. So putting him right behind Jet, one handicap, perfect situation. You get second, I get first place points, you know. Derek Drake, he rode really good last week. He got a top 12, I believe it was. I'm kind of skeptical on Derek, just because in the past, every time I picked him, he either didn't make it or crash. So I'm hoping for the best here with Derek Drake. Jeremy Hand, kind of my sleeper pick this week. He made it into main event, got double points last week with the 10 handicap. That's probably my risky pick for the 250 class. I kind of like it with the 250 class being depleted as it is. It gets an opportunity for him to make the main event easier and just show off what he can do. And then Mitchell Oldenburg, he's an all-star in my opinion. He doesn't have the all-star or whatever you want to say, qualifications or whatever you want to call it. But in my opinion, he's an all-star. The -2 handicap, I don't necessarily like that. However, he's the best rider to pick right here. He'll get top 10 easily. And from that, he'll get double points. So hopefully he can get up to the top 4 or 5. He doesn't fall back too much with that second or that -2 handicap. And then 450 class. This one's kind of up in the air as well. A lot of guys injured, but also coming back from injury. We have Chase Sexton. He went down with Webb last week. I like him as an all-star pick with the handicap of 6. I think he is one of those top riders that can get a podium finish. So I kind of like Sexton here. I like Dean Wilson as my top 12 rider. He should have been a top 7 rider last week. He went down on the track, which sucks because he definitely would have had a top 7, I think. So I kind of like Dean here for a top like 7, 8, or 9 placing right here this weekend. Shane McElrath, he's great at starting. He puts himself in position to be up top. So I kind of like that being with Dean being in that 7th to 10th place. With the 2 handicap, even if he gets like a 12th or 11th, he'll put me in 2 double points. And then my riskiest pick for the weekend is Justin Starling. came off one of his best races yet. I know the class got injured. 4 riders went out. We know this. However, he did make it in the main event without anybody crashing. So with that being said, I kind of like Justin going into the 450 class as my riskiest pick, and kind of getting that top 17 roughly. Top 17, 16, and he making double points. I think he can do that. He's been riding really, really good the last couple weekends. So, but yeah, those are my picks for this week. I won't do a first lap leader. I should though. I need to gain some points, but it's just too risky for me. I don't want to lose points, you know. But with that being said, this is my fantasy team. I'm never going against Eli again in my life, because every single time I say Eli is going to do bad, he wins the race. So from here on out, I'm only picking Eli to win every single week, okay? If I'm not picking Eli to win, I'm stupid and call me out on it.